Hey, it's Mike here, and today, 5 ancient food hacks that have now been validated by science. We're going to look at some magical combinations of herbs as well as some risky food preparation techniques that paid off. We're going to speculate about what these people were thinking when they actually tried these, but mainly we're going to be looking at a ton of research, about 15 studies on the quantifiable benefits of these food techniques. But I want to manage expectations here because, well, some of these were awesome new food hacks when they started thousands of years ago. Some of them are a little less exciting now in terms of what they are, but what is exciting is the research and the quantifiable benefits that they have. So you absolutely will learn something in this video. I learned a lot researching it. Let's go. First off, I think we need to appreciate how ancient people made all of these discoveries without the use of advanced scientific tools. A couple cool examples, and we're not going to go super medicinal in this video in particular, but 2,400 years after Hippocrates was like, hey, use willow bark for pain relief, we end up with aspirin derived from willow bark. And certainly people were using willow bark before Hippocrates, but another cool one is milkweed, which was traditionally used to help treat warts. And later on, biochemists realized that yes, in fact, it does appear to inhibit the unnaturally rapid growth of human cells, which is what happens when you get warts. And don't get me started on the medicine cabinet of the world that is known as the Amazon, but I do want to say something. In no way do I want this video to be taken as just a validation of all traditional practices or an appeal to tradition being perfect. Now, I can rant about horrible traditions forever, but just in terms of food, one that is not appetizing is the traditional Sardinian maggot cheese known as queso marzu. Maggot milk? You can stop watching. All right, let's start on the topic of spices. We have to remember that spices were traditionally super valuable and in certain cases used as currency. Fun tangential fact, in certain areas of Europe in the Middle Ages, you could pay your rent with peppercorns. And the term peppercorn rent still persists to this day, but it has a slightly different meaning. Anyway, now for the first point, most of my viewers probably already know this, but it's pretty awesome, and like an old rock hit, you're probably fine hearing about it again, and that is the amazing combination of pepper and turmeric. We know that the active ingredient in turmeric, curcumin, is a powerful anti-inflammatory, and from this study, the number of diseases that may benefit from it is super long, including cancer, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, uveitis, ulcerative proctitis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel disease, tropical pancreatitis, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. It's basically the polar opposite of a pharmaceutical ad side effect list. But the problem with curcumin is the natural absorption rate through our small intestines is actually quite low. However, depending on the study and depending on the amount used, the active ingredient in pepper can increase that absorption by 3 to 20 times. And that active ingredient in pepper is called piperine. And hey, scientists, why can't we make everything this intuitive? Like, why do we call it curcumin when it isn't even in cumin? Come on. Anyway, from this study, 20 milligrams of piperine resulted in a 2,000% increase in curcumin bioavailability. And these two compounds, piperine and curcumin, when mixed together, create the alchemy known as curry. So when did this amazing combo start? Well, with advances in technology, we can now take samples from ancient clay pots and get a bit of an identification on the starch grains that are in that pot, which can then point to the plants that were used. And 4,500 years ago in South India, we can at least find that turmeric as well as ginger and garlic. Now, pepper might have been there, might have not been there yet, but it is native to South India. People could have been doing this for thousands of years before that. They could have discovered it a little after that. We don't really know. Regardless of when this happened, it is quite amazing that people more or less randomly decided to throw these two things together. And I have to wonder, what made them keep on doing it? Were they like, oh, I feel a little bit less inflammation? Were they like, this just tastes good? I don't know. You might be wondering, what is the mechanism? And simply put, it is likely due to piperine helping more of that curcumin make its way across your intestinal barrier, and then also the piperine preventing the curcumin from breaking down as fast in your bloodstream. All right, let's hop on to number 2, and yeah, we might take this one for granted. It's not super amazing. Soaking stuff, particularly legumes. Okay, let's upgrade that to putting leguminous plants into an aqueous solution for an extended period of time. Now it's cool. We've been soaking a variety of foods forever, and it helps remove some more harmful compounds. For example, it can lower the tannin content, and we don't want high tannins because they can lead to liver damage. One cool example of this is walnuts, but first I just have to mention, if you're a squirrel, simply storing walnuts will also reduce the tannin content. In about 3 weeks, 20 to 40% of the tannins will be gone. But from that same study, they also mentioned that soaking it, depending on the acidity, removes about 50% of the tannins in a couple hours. And if you happen to have any lye on hand, you can remove 100% of those tannins in about 20 minutes. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but I have, where you pick black walnuts off the ground and then you soak them for like a month in a bucket of water and then you cook them. Another motivation to soak nuts and legumes is to lower the phytate content. Phytates can decrease mineral absorption. However, if you know my videos, you know that I think phytate fear is a bit overblown. For example, phytates might have some anti-cancer properties. They also have been shown to be fully digested when you simulate a vegetarian gut in a petri dish. I've never mentioned this study, which, quote, found that habitual consumption of a high phytate diet can reduce the negative effect of phytate on non-heme iron absorption among young women with suboptimal iron stores. So now we have some real-life evidence that the human body can adjust to eating more phytate, but in nowadays climate where people are often taking antibiotics or have other modern digestive issues, why not know how to get rid of phytates, help people eat more healthy foods without being afraid of them? Now, soaking chickpeas for a few hours will reduce the phytate content by about 50%. And I will say a great source of zinc is pumpkin seeds, and soaking them is likely going to lower the phytate content as well. And I will just say, in terms of taste, I can no longer eat unsoaked pumpkin seeds because they're so much more bitter than soaked pumpkin seeds, which are just better anyway. And the mechanism by which soaking reduces phytate is through the activation of the enzyme phytase, which is just naturally present in these legumes. As this study mentions, it breaks that phytic acid down into lower forms of phytic acid that can't bind as well to iron and zinc. There's also the topic of flatulence or gas from beans, which, again, if you've seen my videos, I believe has been demonstrated to be the result of a fiber-deficient diet and a microbiome adjusting to that, and as studies show, it's a short-term result. But could soaking beans allow people to ramp up their bean intake in a more comfortable way? Well, we don't have a ton of data on this, but this study found that soaking reduced the potentially gas-causing oligosaccharides in beans without lowering the nutrient content, so that's cool. And then the final benefit of soaking is simply that it reduces cook time, which is energy efficient and good. Anyway, let's get on to the third, closely related to soaking, and that is sprouting a variety of plants. You already know that we sprout a ton of different foods like legumes and grains and vegetables like broccoli, but you might not be as aware of just how much it can change the nutrient profile and actually increase the antioxidant content of those plants. In the 1940s, Cornell researcher Clive McKay discovered that when he sprouted his soybeans, the vitamin A and vitamin C content rose by 300 and 500% respectively. This is cool because nothing has been added to that soybean seed, yet we see that increase in those vitamins. In this study, in terms of total antioxidant activity in wheat, for example, we're talking about a 20 to 190% increase, which is awesome. The vitamin C content of grains such as wheat and barley is generally low, but when you sprout them, they then create vitamin C. Beta-carotene also generally increases, and folate can increase by 4 to 6 times when you sprout wheat. Sprouting can also make proteins more digestible. Not that this would make it edible for celiacs, but 40 to 80% of celiac stimulating peptides, which are protein chains, are broken down when you sprout wheat for 4 to 8 days. And like soaking, sprouting also lowers that phytate content from this paper. Sprouting brown rice for, half a day to a few days reduces phytates by 60%, and sprouting sorghum for 4 days removes 87% of the phytate. However, generally, I don't think it would be super life-changing to start sprouting all of the grains and legumes that you eat, just because it would result in a lot more work, and unless you have a major digestive improvement, probably isn't worth it. You can also get those same nutrients like beta-carotene, vitamin A, vitamin C from vegetables. By sprouting, you're kind of turning that seed into a hybrid seed vegetable. Just eat more vegetables. Next one, number 4, is a little bit counterintuitive to have discovered, and that is fermenting/culturing foods. I know this sounds like another basic point. Maybe you aren't impressed, but think about the people that first discovered this. They were like, oops, I accidentally left this wild cabbage in a clay pot for 20 days. I'm gonna try it anyway. Oh wait, it actually tastes pretty good and makes my tummy feel nice. You know, we now have sourdough and sauerkraut and kimchi, and the list goes on. And you know about those, but the benefits, how far-reaching they are, you probably don't know about all of those. This clinical trial put people into 3 groups: no kimchi, lower amounts of kimchi, and higher amounts of kimchi. And in the kimchi groups, they observed lower levels of blood glucose. Now, obviously, that's great for diabetes, as well as lower levels of cholesterol, particularly LDL or bad cholesterol. And they said that the drops in people who originally had high LDL cholesterol were so much that they described them as profound. They also saw an increase in the antioxidant status in the kimchi group. And no crap, for those that don't know, kimchi is made of plants. And going back to the first people who started culturing these foods, on purpose or not, didn't know that they were culturing new friends known as lactobacillus and other probiotic bacteria. Maybe they experienced some improved digestion, but they probably weren't aware of studies like this one, which says these probiotic foods may be useful in treating IBS. So maybe it helped them with their cave IBS, but probably most importantly is that it helped preserve food. That means more calories, more resilience, more survival. This is where I'm going to hop out of the food category briefly into the drink category, because it wasn't just lactobacillus that people were harnessing. It was also the combination of bacteria and fungi. One awesome example is water kefir. Now, you can find water kefir under brands like Kevita in the store. It appears like it's a modern trend, but no, this was much more important when you had untreated water in ancient times. By using these probiotic species, you could then prevent pathogens from making untreated water dangerous. And one awesome example is the Mexican water kefir tibicos, which has an awesome origin, and that is that you can pick these water kefir granules off of the surface of a prickly pear cactus. You can then add them to water, rehydrate them, and then culture water kefir from there. Those dry granules then become a sort of gelatinous, clear, standard water kefir grain that you can buy on the internet nowadays. And if you do this, I highly suggest just throwing a couple dates in with some ginger, and boom, you've got ginger ale. It's amazing. Anyway, you already know about kombucha, so let's just move right on to number 5, which is a highly debated remedy, and that is cranberry juice for urinary tract infections. Now, you might think that this doesn't go back further than soccer moms using ocean spray, but it turns out that, like tibicos, this was an ancient technique used by Indigenous Americans. However, it is worth mentioning that cranberry juice might be less effective at treating UTIs that already exist than it could be at preventing UTIs, especially in people who have often recurring UTIs. Well, I'll be completely honest, the research isn't 100% in support of this all the time. This review makes a pretty strong case for it working. It covers multiple double-blind placebo-controlled trials, which found about a 50% reduction in UTIs. Now, one found about a 20% reduction. And yeah, some didn't find a difference, but look, this study in girls with recurrent UTIs found a 62% lower rate than the placebo group. Why didn't all studies find a difference? Who really knows? Maybe it had to do with using lower quality cranberry juice in some, maybe some from concentrate, again, like that ocean spray. All right, let's go team. But Caleb, son, every time you lose possession of the ball, I'm gonna take a shot of my ocean spray, all right? There he goes, there he goes. There he goes again.
What can I say?
Caleb, you suck. You're trash at soccer. I think your dad spiked this, actually. I was Caleb. I'm joking, nothing like that ever happened to me. You might be wondering what the mechanism is. Well, look into the bacterial pathogen E. coli, which is a major cause of UTIs. Now, they sort of adhere to the lining of your urethra and then infect you from there. Simply put, some compounds in cranberry juice could make it more difficult for the E. coli to adhere to that wall lining. In particular, we're talking about the fructose and then also the proanthocyanins, which are a type of polyphenol or antioxidant. Okay, so turmeric and pepper is awesome, soaking and sprouting is awesome, all those other things are awesome. And if you learned one thing for the small price of a little click or tap, or whatever you want to call it, a smash, you can spank that like button if you want. Whichever method you prefer, it helps out my channel. Also, subscribing helps a lot. Thanks for watching. Feel free to let me know down below if I missed any awesome hacks. There are probably some I didn't think of. All right, I'll see you in the next one.